restless dreams. I see that town. Silent Hill.
Hey guys, I'm Bruce, and welcome to another awesome video. So, the PlayStation 2, home to memory cards, laser disc hums, and some shockingly good graphics that had us staring slack-jawed at our CRTs. While some games looked like they were rendered with potato chips, others rolled in with visuals so polished they made you question if the PS3 had snuck in early. From fantastical dreamscapes to cinematic realism, these 15 PS2 games were drop-dead gorgeous. Buckle up, nostalgia lover, because your eyeballs are in for a treat.
Not taking any chances, the President of the United States ordered a contingency plan to sterilize Raccoon City.
Resident Evil 4. If you've ever wanted to take a scenic trip through rural Spain, only to be greeted by pitchfork-wielding villagers infected with mind-controlling parasites, boy, does Resident Evil 4 have the vacation package for you. You play as Leon S. Kennedy, former Raccoon City cop turned presidential babysitter, on a mission to rescue Ashley Graham, the US president's daughter. But instead of a quiet, in-and-out job, you're thrown into a cult-fueled nightmare where everyone either wants to infect you, stab you, or scream, "Detrás de ti, imbecile!" before launching a hatchet at your face. Gameplay ditches the tank controls and fixed cameras of old in favor of a smooth, revolutionary, over-the-shoulder third-person shooter setup. This wasn't just a glow-up, it practically birthed the modern action horror genre. You're blasting limbs, suplexing infected priests, managing a satisfying grid-based inventory like a deadly game of Tetris, and buying absurdly oversized rocket launchers from a mysterious trench coat vendor who somehow beats you to every location. What are you buying? You'll never forget that voice. The enemies, smarter than your average zombie. The atmosphere, dripping with dread. The graphics, insanely good for the PS2, dark, detailed and gory in glorious CRT-baked pixels. A genre-defining masterpiece that still slaps harder than a Garador with rage issues.
But Kratos had no need for the love of petty gods. He had found a new family in the warriors of Sparta, gaining solace from his past in the carnage through battle.
God of War II. You'd think being crowned the new God of War would mean vacationing on Mount Olympus with bottomless ambrosia. But nope, Kratos gets Zeus slapped right back into mortality in the opening act of God of War II. And things escalate from there like a Spartan rage meter on steroids. Betrayed, depowered, and literally squashed by a statue, Kratos begins a cosmic vengeance road trip featuring time travel, Titan alliances, and more mythological monster murder than a Greek tragedy on Fast Forward. The gameplay? Peak PS2 era spectacle. You're swinging the blades of Athena with combo fury, ripping enemies apart in glorious slow-mo QTEs, solving death trap puzzles like a gore-soaked Indiana Jones, and collecting relics like the Golden Fleece and Icarus's wings, because if you're gonna glide through hell, might as well do it fashionably. The combat gets juiced with new weapons like the Barbarian Hammer and magic attacks that let you roast, freeze, and quake your foes into mythological mulch. But what really makes this game graphically godlike for its time is the scale cinematic camera angles, jaw-dropping boss battles, Colossus of Rhodes, anyone? And set pieces that still feel absurdly epic. It's like Michelangelo painted an action game using blood and rage. Kratos really redefined PS2 graphics while yelling about it. Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy XII was the PS2's giant love letter to political drama, sky pirates, and battling mutant horses in the middle of a sandstorm. Set in the lore-stuffed land of Ivalice, this game throws you into a continent-spanning war between Arcadia and Rosaria. with poor little Dalmasca stuck in the middle, like the bread in a world-conquering sandwich. Enter Varn, a wannabe sky pirate who gets swept into a rebellion alongside Princess Ash, who's not so dead, thank you very much, and a suave Han Solo type with a bunny-eared sniper partner, as you do. The gameplay ditched random battles and said, hey, what if we make combat smart and automated? Cue the Gambit system, a brilliant programmable AI tool where you set if-then logic, like you're building a battle-ready spreadsheet. The combat plays out in real time, complete with visible enemies, team swaps, espers, and glorious mist-fueled limit breaks called quickenings. The license board lets you turn everyone into black mages with great abs and massive hammers if you want. And the world is massive, packed with hunts, puzzles, and gorgeous environments that push the PS2 to its limits. With cinematic cutscenes, killer orchestral music, and visuals that still look clean today, Final Fantasy XII was majestic. It's Game of Thrones with airships and Moogles. Okami. Imagine if Studio Ghibli and The Legend of Zelda had a divine baby, and that baby was a paintbrush-wielding wolf. That's Okami, a living watercolor painting with gameplay so creative, it makes even Zelda feel like it's using crayons. You play as Amaterasu, the Shinto sun goddess reincarnated as a majestic white wolf with a celestial glow and some seriously brushy tricks up her furry sleeve. With your pint-sized hype man, Isun, bouncing along for the ride, your goal is simple. Cleanse a cursed Nippon from demonic corruption, slay some ancient evil, and do it all with grace, humor, and brushstrokes. Combat mixes classic hack and slash with magical artistry. You'll freeze enemies mid-fight to draw lines across them, like you're giving them magical paper cuts, or summon fire, wind, and even blooming cherry blossoms with a flick of the celestial brush. The ink-based magic system. Pure genius. The Sumi cel-shaded visuals, still jaw-dropping. It's not just a pretty game, it's a spiritual experience dressed as an epic journey through Japanese mythology. And yes, Okami pushed the PS2 so hard, it had to switch art styles just to survive. But the end result? One of the most gorgeous, artistically ambitious, and emotionally resonant games ever made. For real.
Quickly! I know, don't rush us.
Over there!
Valkyrie Profile II Silmeria. If Greek gods had drama, the Norse gods have Valkyrie Profile II Silmeria. And boy, do they bring the celestial tea. Set centuries before the first game, this PS2 epic delivers a divine tag team. Alicia, a mortal princess, and Silmeria, a rogue Valkyrie sharing the same body like the world's angriest spiritual Airbnb. Their goal? Stop Odin from nuking a rebellious kingdom, survive betrayal, prevent a god war, and maybe not be obliterated by a power-hungry, time-traveling necromancer named Lezard. Casual stuff. Gameplay is split between 2D puzzle platforming exploration and brain-melting, real-time 3D battles. You're slashing, dodging, casting, and breaking enemy limbs like you're billing insurance per fracture. Every attack builds the heat gauge, and once it hits 100%, it's soul crush time, meaning massive damage with anime tier flourish. And the break mode. It turns battles into over-the-top carnage marathons with unlimited AP for a short time. Think full-speed Valkyrie mayhem with Norse opera blasting. Visually, the game is peak PS2 art flex. Gorgeous lighting, intricate character models, and some of the best cutscene choreography of the era. Combine that with haunting music and dense mythological storytelling, and you've got a JRPG that's both a hidden gem and a divine migraine. Just don't try to explain the timeline to your friends or yourself. Gran Turismo 4. With a lineup that spans from an 1886 Daimler to futuristic concept beasts from 2022, this game turned the PS2 into a gearhead's fantasy garage. Over 700 cars. That's not a roster, that's an automotive museum. Instead of just sticking to classic A-spec racing, GT4 introduced B-spec mode, where you become the laziest race car driver ever. Seriously, you just shout commands like a caffeinated pit crew chief and let your AI driver do the heavy lifting. Throw in a fast-forward button, and suddenly those 24-hour Le Mans endurance races don't feel like actual 24-hour life commitments. And if you wanted more single-player spice, the driving missions added clever scenarios that had you overtaking cars with surgical precision, racing in 3-lap duels, or slipstreaming your way through tightly packed grids. The handling got a big upgrade too, with better physics, body roll, and a touch of reality that made each race feel less like a game and more like simulator boot camp. Oh, and don't forget photo mode. You could actually drive to the Grand Canyon, park your Mitsubishi and do a virtual photo shoot like it's Top Gear on vacation. It's not just one of the best racing sims on PS2, it was the PS2 racetrack.
It doesn't matter who I am. I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real.
Silent Hill 2. You wake up in a fog-drenched town with nothing but a letter from your dead wife and a creeping sense that nothing is quite right. That's the setup. And trust me, it only spirals deeper into psychological torment from there. What seems like a simple ghost story quickly unravels into a horrifying dive into guilt, trauma, and human fragility, with monsters that don't just scare you, they mean something. Everything here, from the eerie streets to that iconic pyramid head, is a grotesque mirror of James Sunderland's shattered psyche. Gameplay isn't about mowing down waves of baddies. It's about navigating claustrophobic spaces, solving puzzles that feel like riddles from your subconscious, and enduring dread you can't quite name. The combat's clunky by design, emphasizing James's everyman weakness. But what truly makes this one a standout is its haunting atmosphere, camera work that rivals art house cinema, and its refusal to hand you easy answers. With multiple endings based on your behavior, it blurs the line between player and character in ways most games wouldn't dare. Visually, it pushed the PS2 to its brooding limits, and even today, the oppressive fog and moaning shadows still send shivers. This horror game was a confessional wrapped in static. Rogue Galaxy. You start off as a sand-covered farm boy with dreams of the stars, but within the first hour, you're swinging legendary swords, joining space pirates, and faking your identity as the galaxy's most badass bounty hunter. Things escalate fast. What begins as a swashbuckling romp through the stars turns into a planet-hopping, ancient weapon-finding, rune-fighting, destiny-fulfilling odyssey, with more twists than a pretzel factory. And yes, at some point, you team up with a talking frog who eats swords for a living. Peak JRPG energy. The combat absolutely pops with real-time action. You'll jump, slash, and unleash team attacks while juggling secondary weapons, managing action gauges, and collecting shiny, burning chips to go full anime super move with burning strikes. The Revelation Flow system is basically a cosmic Sudoku, where placing the right loot unlocks new abilities. Each character's grid is its own puzzle of stat-boosting joy. Then there's the weapon synthesis, which lets you throw 2 maxed-out blades into a frog's belly and hope something legendary comes back out. Cell-shaded characters, colourful planets, and seamless transitions between exploration and combat made this one of the best-looking RPGs on the PS2. It's a galaxy-sized adventure full of charm, loot, and laser sword-wielding space weirdos.
誰もわしを止めることはできなかったか。
Tekken V. You're thrown right back into the blood-soaked chaos of the Mishima family drama, and somehow the explosions, betrayals, and devil transformations are even more dramatic than before. Just when you think Heihachi is finally toast after being blown to bits by an army of robot jacks, bam! His undead, demon-possessed father Jinpachi rises from the ruins like a nightmare grandpa with a belly mouth. Meanwhile, Jin Kazama is out here trying to navigate his generational trauma by beating the living crap out of anything that moves, including his own devil form. Gameplay-wise, this one ditches all the Tekken 4 experimentation like weird terrain and awkward corner angles and gets back to its roots with smooth, juggle-heavy, tight 3D fighting. The roster is stacked, the stages are slick, and for the first time, you get to play dress-up with your fighters by customizing outfits and accessories. You can even strap a fish to Paul Phoenix's back. Why? Because Tekken. Outside the main arcade brawling, there's the Devil Within mode, which throws Jin into a beat-em-up adventure that's basically Tekken meets platformer chaos. It's not perfect, but it adds flavour and helps round out the massive content buffet. Visually, it's pure PS2 wizardry, fast, fluid, and flashy as heck.
5-1, this is Hammerhead 6-2. TAC advises streets barricaded to the north. We are circling around you to find an alternate route, over.
Copy that, 6-2.
Black. You're dropped into a war zone with nothing but your instincts, a booming shotgun, and enough explosives to make Michael Bay weep with joy. You're Jack Kellar, a Black Ops soldier caught between a shadowy terrorist group and a CIA cover-up, and your job is simple: blow everything up and don't ask too many questions. Gameplay rips through linear missions packed with cinematic gunfights, destructible environments, and debris flying like it's the 4th of July. The focus here is pure FPS catharsis. Glass shatters, walls splinter, and enemies explode in showers of particle effects. You're not crouching behind cover waiting for a peek. You're kicking down doors with a Spas 12 and lighting up an entire squad. Strategy? Sure, if your strategy is reload after everything's dead. While it skips out on multiplayer and is over in a flash, what it delivers is FPS adrenaline distilled to its most explosive essence. Every gunshot sounds like it was recorded in a cathedral made of dynamite, and the lack of stealth is replaced with style. It's loud, it's destructive, and it's a glorious throwback to action without restraint.
And is using it to further his plans. But that is not enough to satisfy him. Now he's plotting to seize the secret weapon I have been developing here and use it as leverage in his bid for power.
Metal Gear Solid 3. Dropped deep in the heart of Cold War paranoia, you step into the boots of Naked Snake. Before he became the legendary Big Boss in a mission that's equal parts jungle survival, psychological warfare, and betrayal that'll rip your heart out with a CQC takedown. It's 1964, and the Soviet wilderness is your deadly playground, crawling with enemies, traps, and just enough Cold War weirdness to make you question everything. You're not just here to pull the trigger, you're here to sneak, crawl, hunt, eat snakes, literally, and assassinate your mentor in a storyline so tragic it redefines the word twist. This time, it's not about high-tech gadgets and metal gears, it's about surviving the wilderness with a torn-up uniform and whatever you can catch, cook, or stitch together. No radar, no nanomachines, just a camo index, a slowly draining stamina bar, and the ever-present rustle of leaves hiding Soviet patrols. You'll crawl through the mud, patch up bullet wounds, dig shrapnel out of your leg, and interrogate enemies with a knife to their throat, all while Kojima throws philosophy, nuclear paranoia, and existential dread at you like it's an arms race of emotion. The boss fights, pure tactical spectacle. From sniping showdowns with ancient snipers to flamethrower-wielding cosmonauts and ghostly psychics, every battle feels like a mind game, wrapped in bullets and betrayal. And when it all leads to that final heartbreaking showdown with the boss, your mentor, your enemy, your victim, it doesn't just hit hard, it scars. Zeno Saga III. On the brink of universal collapse, the final chapter of the Zeno Saga trilogy unleashes a mind-bending, heart-shattering space opera where gods bleed, androids dream, and time loops are forged from human regret. It's TC 4768, the galaxy's on fire with political backstabbing, cosmic horror, and rogue AI philosophy, and standing in the eye of the storm is Shion Uzuki, a woman haunted by visions, hunted by her past, and followed by her masterpiece, the battle android KOS Emos. As the Gnosis threat escalates, and Abel's arc begins devouring planets like divine sushi, every unanswered question and unfinished trauma from the series smashes into the present like a metaphysical nuke. This time, it's personal. Shion quits Vector after uncovering their dark roots in the Zohar conspiracy. Alan tries to stop KOS MOS's deactivation while nursing the most patient crush in gaming. And Chaos, yes, his name is lowercase for a reason, stands poised to reveal what the hell he's been doing for 3 whole games. Meanwhile, Juna confronts his deranged brother Albedo's ghost. Kanan wrestles with what it means to be real. And the Testaments, a rainbow-coloured boy band of resurrected psychos, close in under Wilhelm's eternal recurrence time loop scheme that makes Nietzsche look like a children's author. You'll hunt the past, watch the future burn, and ride a mech into the core of metaphysical despair. By the time KOS Mos locks blades with her twin, Tielos, and Shion's necklace shatters to break the wheel of fate, you're not just watching the end of a trilogy, you're witnessing a god's funeral, a lover's sacrifice, and a universe daring to dream something new. Shadow of the Colossus. A lone rider crosses a massive bridge into the Forbidden Land carrying a lifeless girl and a stolen blade. What follows is not a heroic quest, but a haunting reckoning where resurrection has a price, and every towering Colossus you fell brings you closer to losing your soul. In Shadow of the Colossus, you're not fighting monsters, you're becoming one. Armed with nothing but a sword, a bow, and a desperate wish, Wanda rides aggro across an empty ancient world, a land abandoned by time, crumbling under myth, and echoing with silence. There's no overworld filler, no side missions, no armies to fight. Just 16 sacred colossi scattered across valleys, deserts, lakes, and ruins. Each one is its own puzzle living architecture, with glowing weak points hidden in their stone flesh. Climbing these giants is half fight, half prayer, as Wanda clings to their shaking fur while the world blurs below. Every victory is earned, and every victory costs. As you bring down each Colossus, Wanda deteriorates visibly, spiritually marked by Dormin's essence seeping into his body. What began as a noble plea to restore Mono becomes a creeping transformation into something ancient and terrible. The game never tells you whether you're the hero or the villain. It lets your actions whisper it instead. In the wind, over a ruined altar, and the silence left behind after a fallen giant. No dialogue trees, no exposition dumps, just wind, stone, and silence. And somehow, that's louder than any soundtrack. By the time the 16th Colossus falls and the truth slams down like the shattered bridge behind you, the game doesn't give you closure. It gives you a cradle, a curse, and a baby with horns. Soulcalibur III. A cursed sword, a haunted warrior, and a spiral of violence set against an era of chaos. Soulcalibur III doesn't just raise the stakes, it fractures fate. With a narrative that builds directly on the ashes of Soulcalibur II, this installment hurls the series into a darker, deeper dimension where the lines between salvation and damnation blur. Months after the clash that nearly ended Soul Edge, the evil blade isn't destroyed. It's restless. Siegfried, finally free from its grip, embarks on a self-destructive path of redemption, now wielding both Soul Edge and Soulcalibur in a desperate bid to end the nightmare. But the sword's malevolent will survives, taking on a monstrous avatar and carving a new trail of blood across the land. Meanwhile, the enigmatic Zasalamel manipulates events from the shadows, aiming to use the cursed weapon's chaos to achieve immortality. New faces like the frenzied Tira and the elegant assassin Setsuka step into the conflict, each carrying their own vendettas and twisted hopes. This chapter explodes with ambition. The expanded roster, featuring over 40 fighters across modes, introduces unprecedented customization, a full-blown character creation suite, and Chronicles of the Sword, a strategic campaign fusing RTS elements with classic dueling. Tales of Souls adds depth, with cinematic branching paths shaped by your reflex. And yet, while the Mortal Kombats and Street Fighters went online, Namco doubled down on lore, offline content, and layered gameplay progression. Clenoa II. In this surreal sequel, the floppy-eared dream traveler Clenoa crash lands in the world of Lunatia, where moods are kingdoms and bells hold the balance of emotion. Armed with a magic ring, powered by an anxious priestess in training named Lolo, and emotionally supported by Popka, a dog who sounds like he smokes cigars, Clenoa sets off to collect elemental MacGuffins before the Kingdom of Sorrow crashes the party. Literally. Classic 2.5D platforming meets delightful puzzles, where you chuck enemies like baseballs to double jump or trigger clever mechanics. You'll ride boards, fly through cannons, and bounce across stages that look like someone spilled Skittles on a Van Gogh painting. Bosses are big, flashy, and require brains and bravery, and decent thumb reflexes. With collectibles, alternate paths, and a hauntingly emotional payoff, this platformer is deceptively deep. It's the rare game that looks like a Saturday morning cartoon, but punches like a Pixar finale. Clenoa II is heartfelt, weird, and visually stunning, even by today's indie darling standards. A platformer with pathos, sign us up. And there you have it. 15 PS2 games that didn't just play great, they looked like a million polygonal bucks. These games sure proved the PS2 could dazzle. Sure, today's graphics may be shinier, but these titles still hold up like fine retro wine. So dust off that fat PS2 and let your inner graphics snob bask in low-res glory.